Welcome to episode 221 of the Range Minded Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Larry Vickers and some bad choices he's made. We're also going to talk about some kind of current news. And yeah, I'll probably be monologuing by the end of the show. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Range Minded Podcast. Well, look who's back. That's right. I may have waited a little too long between episodes, but yeah, things happen. Friends, welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. As usual, it's your humble host, Steve Zimmerman. And yes, one day we'll get Nick back on here. He's been so busy pumping out holsters like nobody's business. It's just been tough between his schedule and my schedule to make things match up. And I apologize for that. So in this episode, I wanted to, I had actually planned to do an episode weeks and weeks ago. But honestly, every time I'd come down here, I would jump on, start doing some show prep. And stuff would happen so fast. News is just coming in like crazy. I'd get overwhelmed. I'd get discouraged. And I'd go, leave the podcasting studio. And then I'd come back down the next couple nights down the way. The same thing would happen. Folks, a lot of things have happened since we last met. And I doubt you've been living under a rock. But I wanted to kind of talk about a few things, including something tragic that happened today as just hours before I recorded this show. As of right now, at the date of recording, I guess is a better way to put it, it is October 25th. Let's actually jump on this thing very, very first. I just want you guys to get ahead of this or know what's going on. So in Lewiston, Maine, if you haven't heard by now, as I'm recording this, this is 11 o'clock at night, Mountain Time, I think is what I am. I don't even know what time zone I am. Okay. Anyway, so earlier tonight, a murderer decided to go on a shooting spree in Maine, in the Lewiston, Maine area, which it sounds like this area is fairly small town. I think they said there's like 32,000 people in this town, so it's not big. It's not a big place. I'm not familiar with Maine. I'm not familiar with this area. So I can't say what the population density is. Honestly, it doesn't matter for what the story is. So they do have a suspect, a person of interest, if you will. I'm not going to name this guy. I don't believe that anyone that goes on a rampage deserves any kind of recognition whatsoever. He's a murderer. He's a dirtbag. He's an asshole. If this individual is truly the dude that perpetrated this heinous, disgusting, sycophantic, whatever you want to call it, he deserves to rot in hell. Whoever's doing this. As of my information, again, this is a little after 11 o'clock, 22 people are dead, and it sounds like he shot 50, 60 people, a ton of people. So more could pass away from this. Tragic and awful. Now, of course, they're going to jump right on to, in fact, I'm watching a CNN loop as I'm speaking, and they're going to jump right to saying this is a high-powered rifle, it's an AR-15 style, so we're going to just be bombarded with anti-gun propaganda. Now, mind you, we've actually had several pro-gun cases go our way in district and Supreme Court over the last few weeks. Some very good rulings have come forth. So whenever we see things like this, like movement towards freedom happen, there seems to be dark deeds that take place to bring negative light to your and my freedoms. I'm not saying that this was a black flag, a false flag incident. Oh, excuse me. Terrible radio. Never yawn on the radio. That was one thing I learned as a DJ back in the day. Obviously, I didn't learn it. Whenever we see traction moving towards our freedoms becoming more free, when our Second Amendment rights are being restored, it seems that something like this happens. Like I say, I'm not saying that there's correlation to causation, but either way, it's tragic. My heart goes out to these families that don't get to see their loved ones. It's awful, it's sickening, and it's disgusting. We definitely, in the firearms community, do not support this kind of behavior. Good gun owners are not the ones going around killing people in cold blood. Okay. Some other things about this particular individual. I'm assuming that they think it's him because they'd seen his car or a car just like his parked out in front. He went and shot up a bowling alley, and then I think he shot up a Walmart or something. I'm not quite sure. There's actually some conflicting information, but they did say multiple locations, and he's on the run. They don't know where he is. His car was left at a boat ramp, so he's who knows where he's at. If he jumped on a boat and took off, he could be downriver. Who knows? Chances are he's gonna kill himself or something, or I don't know. There's already rumors going around, or not rumors, but theories going around that he didn't act alone. It's crazy. Obviously, we can't say what is what yet. It's developing story. It's tragic, but just know that you are going to catch a whole bunch of heat for being a law-abiding gun owner tomorrow and upcoming weeks. Okay, it is what it is. Don't give up hope. Don't fall to the narrative that they think you are. Be the good example, the example that we all need to be of a good steward of the Second Amendment. We know we're not the bad guys. And let's be honest, a lot of people that are fighting against our gun rights, they're not necessarily bad people either. They just have a different point of view. They're collecting the narrative for their construct of reality from a different place than we are. When all you hear is negative and terrible things about firearms owners, of course, you're going to think that gun owners are awful, murderous, MAGA people, when the reality is far from that. We understand the gun statistics. I can pump out self-defense statistics. I can pump out all sorts of good information, good solid information that we want to have as a defense of like why we understand and love the Second Amendment. But it's pointless to somebody who doesn't understand reason and conversation. They only think with emotion. Most of them, not all of them. And when you make decisions based on emotion, they tend to be irrational. They tend to be over the top. They tend to be an overcorrection that's out of bounds of reality. Stay strong, stay focused, and be a good steward of the Second Amendment. All right. That being said, let's jump to what I was really planning on talking about. Let's go in order, shall we? Well, mostly order. So when I originally was talking about, or not talking about, but originally developing the show prep for this particular episode, which honestly would have been like 4 episodes ago, I was going to talk about the preliminary injunction for the FRT case. It's not a good injunction. You've probably already heard all the stuff about it. It's not favorable to those who have forward reset triggers, or forced reset triggers. Sorry. It's going to go through the court system again. It may end up in the Supreme Court, but as of right now, if you're running a forced reset trigger, it's not really looking the best for you. I'm not going to talk about that anymore than that. There's tons of information already out there. Mark Smith from the Four Boxes Diner, I think he has an excellent episode or whatever video on that. And he can honestly explain it way better than I can. What I did want to talk about in this episode, one of the things anyways, is how how good the Democrats are at selling firearms. So I can remember way back, maybe some of you guys can remember too, this has been a tremendous, it seems like an eternity ago anyways. When Obama became president, gun sales surged. Why did they surge? Because people knew that their Second Amendment rights were going to be pushed and pushed and pushed to the brink of breaking, stretched so thin that we weren't sure what was going to happen. And because of that, because of the promised threat of gun control, of taking away scary AR-15s and assault rifles, that people were so concerned about that they were purchasing guns at record levels. Now that's going way back, 2010, 2008? Man, has it really been that long? Folks, gun sales have eclipsed that by leaps and bounds. Once George Floyd took place, riots started happening, politicians pushing for defunding the police, not Republican politicians, by the way. They're going to say that. The radical left-wing politicians were calling for defunding the people that's keeping the citizens safe, or at least acting as some kind of a barrier from evil. And then the radical left called for their jobs to be taken away or radically reduced, which obviously led to more crime, to more problems in these communities, particularly minority communities. Once these minorities figured out that there was no barrier between evil and their front door, these individuals knew that it was time for them to take matters into their own hands, and so they started purchasing firearms. Republicans and Democrats alike. Because the cops weren't going to be there to save their asses when it got real. They knew they were the only ones standing as a barrier to protect their own families. And so they went to the quickest and most logical means to do so, and that was purchasing firearms. Now, this article I pulled from guns.com. It's old now. Like I said, this was episodes ago. It should have been done quite a while ago. I think this was posted on the 4th of October. I think I saw it somewhere. Nonetheless, it's an interesting article. Nonetheless. So, in September of this year, 2023, there was over 1 million retail gun sales. 1 million. If they unadjusted it, or because this, what I should put in is NSSF in correlation with the NICS program, the FBI NICS background program. They figured that there was somewhere in September around 2,035,410 chicks. Over 1 million firearm sales. By comparison, let's see. Oh, yeah. Anyway, 1 million gun sales in a month. Now, I don't know what October's numbers are because October isn't over yet. But here's the thing. That wasn't just September. September was not a record number year or month. It is the 50th consecutive month of over 1 million background checks. That means, now how many months are in a year, right? 12. So here we are. We're over 4 years of 1 million background checks every month. Staggering numbers. So let's kind of go back and think about what they said in the Bruen and Heller case, right? When they talk about, we have to ban guns because of the safety of our individual citizens. What was stated in the in the writings of SCOTUS? You cannot ban firearms that are in common use. I would highly suggest that over these last 50 million guns purchased over the last 4 years, which is more than 50 million in my, I mean, it really is. Anyway, I digress. I got to focus here. I got to get through this. Of those 50 million plus, I'm assuming, you know what happens when you assume, that a majority of those background checks are the scary AR-15 style assault rifles. 50 million in 4 years, I would say that is freaking in common use. Now, the radicals are going to tell you, well, look how much crime has gone up over 4 years. It is correlated with gun sales. I promise you, the vast majority of those 50 million plus gun sales, a vast majority of those purchasers did not buy a gun to do evil. They purchased those life-saving devices to protect themselves from the evil that the government is unwilling to do. The cops are not going to save you. The average response time is what, 7 minutes, 11 minutes? I can't remember now. It's been so long. Maybe we should look it up, shall we? Let's go on an adventure. The average response time for a police call. Let's find out. If I could spell here. I'm trying to reach across. Average response. Average response time for the police. Oh my gosh. I was way off. So this number's from 2017. It may have changed. Oh, in 2017, a study was done by Homeland Security that the average response time was about 10 minutes. It also, through the same thing, it said the average duration of an active shooter is 12 minutes. Now they're saying 18 minutes. 18 minutes for a response time. Let's go back to the very first thing we talked about in this episode. A lunatic causing mass murder. 18 minutes is a long frickin' time. I mean, look at Uvalde, 72 minutes. No wonder why people are buying guns in droves. Because no one is going to save your family. You need to take action on your own and develop a plan, develop a strategy, learn how to defend your home, and create a hard target. It's disgusting. Way more than I thought it was. Holy crap. Well, here's one that's a little newer. It says 5 to 6 minutes. That makes me feel a little bit better. Well, here's one from NPR. Sorry, I'm just jumping all over the place on Google here. In some of 15 cities in the United States, oh my gosh, I thought 18 minutes was ridiculous. New Orleans, the average response time went from 51 minutes to 146 minutes. Now, mind you, I believe New Orleans was one of those defund cities. Get a firearm. Develop a home protection plan. And learn how to execute it. Get good training. Involve your family in training. Don't do it all on your own. Wow. 146 minutes. Judas Priest. That is a brand new story, by the way. Oh my gosh. That's going to go in my class content, by the way. Speaking of which, I'll be teaching in Boise at Independence Indoor Shooting on December 4th, I think it is, on a Saturday. So if you're looking for an enhanced concealed class in the state of Idaho, in the Boise Valley, I'll be there. That was a free plug. Good grief. Good grief. I have a nice quote for you as I just opened my beverage of choice. I got to keep my throat nice and moisturized here. This is a great quote, okay? Hopefully I can get through this properly. Like the Bowie knife, which was commonly carried by citizens and soldiers in the 1800s, assault weapons are dangerous but useful. But unlike the Bowie knife, the United States Supreme Court has said there is a long-standing tradition of widespread lawful gun ownership by private individuals in this country. Americans have the individual right to keep and bear arms. The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees the individual right to possess and carry weapons in case of confrontation, whether citizens ever fire or need. Oh, isn't that great? So this is definitely a happy part of the show. So Saint Benitez from California, who is a stalwart when it comes to Second Amendment in the heathen state of California, he was shooting holes through the California assault weapons ban. Just destroyed it. I am not going to be able to read this whole decision. It's impossible. It's like 75 pages. I will link it to the show notes, but there is so much solid content in this ruling. It is beautiful. There was a couple of quotes I wanted to pull out of here if I can find it. Like I said, this page, I've just got the PDF downloaded, so I don't have a way to mark it. But Benitez goes through so many like self-defense situations. Oh, here it is. This is on page 5, I believe. People have heard about the Robb Elementary School shooting in Uvalde, Texas. They have heard about Sandy Hook in Portland, the Pulse nightclub, and other tragic mass shootings. but they do not hear of the AR-15 being used in Florida by a pregnant wife and mother to defend her family from 2 armed, hooded, and masked home intruders. As soon as the armed intruders entered the back door of the home, they pistol whipped her husband, fracturing his eye sockets and sinus cavity. Then they grabbed the 11-year-old daughter. The pregnant wife and mother was able to retrieve the family AR-15 from the bedroom and fire, killing one of the attackers, and the other fled. It does not require much imagination to think what would have happened next if the woman had lived in California and could not possess such a firearm. People do not remember the disabled 61-year-old man living alone on a 20-acre property in Florida with dense woods and long dirt driveway. After the homeowner had gone to bed, 3 men armed with a shotgun, pistol, and BB gun, good choice there, invaded. One wore a Jason hockey mask. The disabled victim said he was awakened by a loud noise and grabbed the AR-15 laying near his bed. He saw the masked man and the second man coming towards him inside his home. Gunfire was exchanged. By the time police arrived, one attacker had run away, one lay wounded on the outside, and one was dead in the dining room floor. Police found the disabled man in his bedroom alive, but bleeding from a gunshot wound to his stomach. The AR-15 lay across his leg. Without his modern rifle, the victim would have become an evidence tag and a forgotten statistic. Judge Benitez needs to be on the Supreme Court. Will it happen? Probably not, at least not for a while. But he has countless things like that in this ruling. Like I said, I'm going to link it in the show notes. It is awesome. Absolutely awesome. It is absolutely refreshing to see that somebody making decisions that impact the freedoms of citizens, at least within the state of California, has the wherewithal and the understanding and the ability to use the Bruen decision to make free-minded rulings, at least at the district level. It is an awesome piece of I don't even know what you call it. It's a great read. Let's put it that way. Fantastic. Like I said, I'm going to link that to the show notes. All right. Here's something that I am a little frustrated about. I first heard of this story a couple days ago. And maybe you're already apprised of this situation. I've been to a few different SHOT Shows. Every time I go to SHOT Show, I see this particular man's face. If not on the AK USA or Kalashnikov USA booth, I see him at the Vickers Tactical booth, obviously. He's always drinking something, sitting at a table, peddling books, answering questions, or spending some time talking to content creators. Larry Vickers is the man I'm talking about. Now, if you do not know who Larry Vickers is, most recently, he would be what you would call a content creator on YouTube. Has a lot of amazing videos on YouTube. Some of the coolest slow motion videos I've ever seen of the cycle of operation for AKs and handguns and ARs. Some pretty cool content. Previously, from being a YouTube creator, he was a liaison. He's a business owner. He owns Vickers Tactical. I didn't realize this. I guess he started or helped start the IDPA. He's very well respected as a firearms instructor. He understands how to build and run 1911s like nobody's business. Very influential person in the industry. Before being involved in the firearms industry as a professional, he's a decorated veteran. Delta Force. He spent a lot of times on the ground scaring the hell out of bad guys. He's a bad dude in a good way. He's the kind of dude you want on your team. Pretty amazing guy. In my experience, he's a little arrogant. I tried to have a conversation with him one time at SHOT Show. And mind you, when you go to SHOT Show, it's crazy. It's chaos. I imagine it's exhausting sitting in a booth. Recently, he was diagnosed with cancer. He's it's got to be tough. Okay, a lot of life experience up to this point. But now he's in a lot of trouble. So he just pled guilty to some pretty serious charges. And there's a lot of information out there already. Johnny B, which I absolutely love the guy. He has a couple pretty interesting videos and his take on this whole situation. Long story short, Larry and a couple other dudes, they wanted to, apparently what they did is they had some law enforcement individuals write these law letters to get some demo autos from overseas to demo for law enforcement. In the meantime, some of those demos may have never taken place. I think I read that somewhere, maybe not here. Allegedly, let's put it that way. Working hard to get firearms that are hard to get or impossible to get domestically. With the NFA Act, there's a lot of stuff that made it really difficult to get cool guns in the United States. The transferable machine guns are impossible to get. But they found a way to request full auto firearms outside of the country using legal means to get them here, and approval through the ATF, which appeared to be through the correct channels. The problem is, like I said, some of those demos may not have taken place. We don't know. I don't know for sure anyways. Those demos... Oh, well, let's put it this way. So Larry had his FFL and his SOT. You have to have your SOT to have full autos, suppressors, that kind of thing, especially if you're going to deal, I should say, in that kind of stuff. So he had his special operation tax and the correct firearms license, federal firearms license. During all this stuff from 2014 to recent, at some point his SOT had expired, and I don't know if his FFL expired. I can't remember. I know I read it. Once his FFL and SOT expired, he is no longer able to request and possess these things. Some of those firearms got sold. Some of those firearms kind of just vanished in thin air. And like I say, it's a conspiracy among several people. That's a big deal. And he pled guilty to doing this. Basically, he's trafficking in illegal firearms. Long story short. For some reason, they only gave him 5 years for this, or only going to give him 5 years for this. But that's not the problem. In 2018, we had some issues with Russia and Crimea. Because of that, Obama said, or 2014, sorry. Did I say 18? It's 2014. Because of that, Obama said, look, we're putting sanctions up. We're not dealing with you. Because of this, We're not giving you anything, and we're not taking anything from your country anymore. Anything. In the meantime, Kalashnikov America, or Kalashnikov USA is what most people are thinking now, was working on creating a factory in the United States so they can bring U.S.-made firearms. Instead, they wanted to build AK-style stuff, Kalashnikov stuff in the United States without having to deal with bringing stuff from overseas because of the sanctions. Now, I hope I'm getting this right. Johnny B does a way better job than I do on this. Along with that, those sanctions was any kind of intel, any kind of documentations, shop drawings, anything that would profit Russian stuff. Somehow, through Vickers and his homies, this information made its way, apparently, allegedly, to Kalashnikov USA. Because if you go through some of their stuff, even they're saying, hey, we got original shop drawings. We got original stuff. Well, there was no way for them to get that in that time frame unless it was illegally. In that same time frame, Vickers was working hand in hand, helping them very closely develop their new U.S. made firearms. But it doesn't stop there. I mean, that's where the Vickers problem stops. But our friends at the NRA are always willing to cause more problems. Maybe you remember the Russian spy problem. This was in 2018. Now we're jumping from this whole time frame all the way up back to 2018. Maybe you remember there was a lady Russian gal. She had the wrong visa or something. It ended up being a real issue. She was working with the NRA as some kind of liaison or something. And then they're saying, well, she's got to go because she's a spy. Like, there was a big mess. Maybe you don't remember. I don't know. I remember vaguely. And when Johnny B brought this back up, the light bulb started to light back up on me. So now the NRA could be involved, maybe not directly, but there's all these little breadcrumbs from all over the place. It's a mess. It's such a confusing mess. Do I want to see Vickers go to jail? No, I don't. I think he's a good advocate for the Second Amendment. A wealth of knowledge. He's already pled guilty to this stuff, so he did it. Do I like Vickers? Yes, I do. But I think he also needs to pay for whatever crime he's committed, because that's unacceptable. But it's still kind of a developing story. We don't have all the information. I probably put stuff that was wrong out there. All this stuff, everything that I've said is my understanding of the situation. It's not the gospel. But it's pretty sad. Pretty messed up. I'll link whatever documentation I have in the show notes as well. If you want to watch the Johnny B video, just look it up, Johnny B. There's some other folks out there that did some good content on this as well. It's just sad. People make stupid mistakes or stupid decisions. Man, that tastes good. All right. Let's see, what other show notes did I have going on today? That was the last one I wrote down. Okay. Let's get ready to wrap this thing up. I might have to monologue for a minute. The border is porous, right? We get this. We understand that. There's a lot of bad people coming over the border. And we don't know where they're going. There are known terrorists. Now, this is not just me making supplemations on something. There are known terrorists that have come across the border. Known terrorists. People on a list. And they've all kind of just vanished into the netherverse. That's a problem. Now, I'm sure if you can remember back in the beginning of October, Hamas invaded Israel and went on a killing, disgusting, murderous rampage. Did unspeakable things to children, to families. Unspeakable thing to women that they'd pick up off the street and abuse in the most vile way. They found any kind of weakness in the Israeli defense system, and they exploited it, running bulldozers through walls and fences, flying paragliders through the Iron Dome. Walking down the street, shooting anybody they saw. Going house to house, room clearing. If they couldn't get into the home, they'd set it on fire until people ran out, and then they'd shoot them. A disgusting act. First of all, why would you want to do that to Israel? They know that Israel means what they say and says what they mean. Israel retaliates, right? We've seen that. Because Hamas is a terrorist organization, it puts missile batteries and important things inside residential areas, puts headquarters in hospitals. Uses the Palestinian people as pawns. Because of that, many Palestinians have died. It seems everywhere we look, evil is getting thicker and darker. The lack of compassion of our fellow man is waning. To put it in another way, the hearts of men shall fail them. Again, our border is wide open. There have been known terrorists who've crossed the southern border and vanished in the populace. There are rumors of fragments, cells, whatever you want to call it, in Utah. I'm willing to wager there are cells in a lot of major populated areas. Not too long ago, they found an illegal Chinese chemical factory in California running out of a vacant building. I don't have all the answers. I don't say this to scare you or create some kind of a drama or give you fear for your life. The reason why I bring this up is to make you aware. We talk about training all the time. We talk about being a good steward of the Second Amendment all the time. That's the purpose of this podcast. We talk about taking people shooting so you can grow the firearms community all the time. I still advocate for that. I'll never not advocate for that. We talk about getting involved in your community, getting involved in local politics, which is disgusting and icky. I get it. It's time to wake up and see the world as it is. It's time to put down Candy Crush, which I know nobody plays anymore. You're never going to find the bottom of your Facebook feed. You're never going to find the bottom of the Twitter feed. So why are you spending time? Why are you wasting time? And this is as much for me as it is for you guys. It's time to get our homes in order. It's time to get the training that we need, and we all need training. Get medical training. Get your food storage, whatever alternate source of food, get that in order. We have no idea when it's going to get terrible in this country. But it sure feels like it's closer than it's ever been. I know if you read a lot of the Bible, you're just going to go, well, it's the sign of the times. Yeah, it probably is the sign of the times. So why are you sitting on your laurels? If you want to get biblical about it, why are you not filling your lamp? Because when the bridegroom cometh, your lamp's going to be half full and you won't be able to go. How's that for biblical? You're going to be as chaff in the whirlwind. Is that biblical enough for you? Quit wasting time. You know, I love buying guns. I absolutely love looking at new guns, going to the gun shops, drilling over the cool stuff in there. I get it. I love new technology when it comes to firearms. It's sexy. I can't eat a Prodigy. I can't eat a Daniel Defense. Yeah, I get it. I can take it and go hunting or whatever and get the food I need. Maybe not. Do you know how to run that gun? Do you know how to run a shotgun in a defensive situation? Can you reload a shotgun super fast? Probably not. Not very many people can. It's a small percentage, I'm assuming, in the gun culture that can actually run a shotgun properly. I can't. Get your house in order. Look at what just happened in Maine. Small community. Get your house in order. Get training. Come up with a family plan that keeps you and your family safe. Develop code word. I know this sound super creepy, right? Maybe not creepy, but over the top. Create a code for your family that you can speak in code that nobody understands. I'm not saying develop an entire new dialect or language or whatever. That's not what I mean. Have code words for, when you're carrying a firearm. Have code words when you see danger. Have code words to know if you're on the phone with a loved one that you know they're okay or they need help. Develop a plan. Learn how to execute that plan. Be vigilant around your family. They're the most precious thing you have in this life. Learn how to take care of things. If you're a praying man or woman, pray. I believe God loves you and knows who you are. And because of that, I believe he'll help you develop a way to keep your family safe. I know, crazy right wing, right? Religious zealot. Friends, I love you. I love each and every one of you. And I want you guys to be safe. Evil is all over the place. And we don't get to make the decision when the gunfight happens. We only can make the reactionary decisions after the fact. And if we can make a lot of those decisions before it happens, our reaction time increases. And we can be safer. That's why I'm telling you these things. Anyways, friends, I know my monologues get kind of boring and dark maybe at times. But I'm just trying to be real with you guys. At least the way I see the world. Be safe. Take somebody shooting. Get good training. Hug your loved ones. Be present. It's important. I appreciate the time you guys have spent with me in this episode, as always. If you like this content, give us thumbs up, like, share, whatever, reviews. You know the gig. You can follow us on Instagram, Range Minded Podcast, Facebook, Range Minded Podcast, Twitter, X, whatever it is, Range Minded. I even have a Substack, Range Minded Podcast, oddly enough. Be safe. Remember who you are. Take somebody shooting. Good night. Thanks for spending your time tonight listening to the Range Minded Podcast. Your input is valuable to us. If you liked what you heard in tonight's show, go ahead and like, share, and review on whatever platform you're listening to. If you want to get hold of us, you can email me at rangeminded@gmail.com, or you can find us on our social medias. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under the Range Minded Podcast. I appreciate your feedback. We love you guys, and remember to take somebody shooting.